Join us for the Criterion Institute podcast as Joy Anderson, a global thought leader in business and social change, leads us through a series of discussions, interviews, frameworks, rants, and reframes that will help you better understand how to use finance as a tool for transformative systems change.
I am Joy Anderson, and this is the Criterion Institute podcast. The reflections today look at two different angles on costs. One is looking at why gender is perceived as expensive to integrate into investments. There is a running assumption that if I incorporate gender into my work, it will dramatically, in some sort of way that I can't possibly manage, increase the costs of my investments. So why do we actually assume that gender is expensive, and why can't it be cost neutral? The second is actually looking at the costs of control. This is something we've thought about a lot in the work of field building, and how control is expensive. And as a field building organization, it maybe is an expense that we can't tolerate.
If you believe in the power of our financial systems as a force for good, why not consider donating to Criterion Institute? Your donation enables us to stand in the face of power and ensures the power of our financial systems is directed to be a positive force against systemic injustice. Every dollar goes directly towards enabling investors and social change organizations to intervene in financial systems in bold and imaginative new ways. Find out more about the change we're creating at criterioninstitute.org/donate.
A brief rant about why we think gender is so bloody expensive. That's the overall assumption, is we can't integrate gender into our work because doing that is so expensive. Why? It's a set of knowledge. It's a type of analysis. It's amazing what we decide as the limits of what we're going to pay for. A while back, I had a call with somebody who saw themselves as a gender lens investor. They had prioritized gender, invested in women-led investment vehicles, but they had done it accidentally. It just fit within their strategy. The sectors that they were working in, the markets that they were working in just happened to be markets where women entrepreneurs and women fund managers were working. And so they stumbled into gender equity. And she called me and said, so we're trying to figure out how to find the resources to be able to be more intentional about gender. And they were thinking about a half-time analyst to integrate into their work. And they had 50 analysts on their team, but they couldn't imagine adding in a half of an analyst to work on gender, even though it was actually key to their strategy. It wasn't just an add-on. It was actually patterns within their market. So we spend money on business all the time. We hire audit firms. We hire experts. We hire folks who can do things that we're looking to do. We hire training firms to upskill us. In the end, change does cost money. Like, I get it. Like, the ability to change practices costs money. Once you've incorporated gender, it won't be more expensive forever, because once you've incorporated the data, or once you've figured out how you're going to do analysis, the cost will be baked in. You'll have team members who know how to do this. You'll have data sets that respond to this. You'll have analysis that works. What is actually expensive about gender is the resistance. If we did not have to spend so much time overcoming bias, deep-seated sexism, misogyny, reductionist ideas of social issues, resistance to the idea that gender matters, if we didn't have to spend that money, it would be relatively simple to take a new set of insights and incorporate them into our investments. If you do the change right, in the end, it will be cost neutral. Gender analysis isn't more expensive than other forms of analysis, and once it's integrated into your work, it will simply work. It's the change process that is expensive. It's the resistance that's expensive. It's the bias that's expensive. In the end, gender is cost neutral. A long time ago, I learned a fundamental truth that control is expensive. I learned this first, perhaps, in a initiative that we were doing called Leaders Shaping Markets. And we had been putting together a plan for how to build a community of practice of a whole bunch of different leaders who are shaping market systems, and how they would come together and share their thinking and be a community. This was maybe about 10 years ago. We pulled all that together and we designed it as what we described as a potluck, right? If you contributed something to the overall community, that you could participate. And then we tried to find funding. And I went to talk to a foundation who was very interested in this kind of work and wanted to fund us. But their first questions were, on what basis do you determine that somebody is qualified to be a leader who is shaping markets? Who is inside? Who is outside? Please give me a list of the names of the people who would potentially participate, your criteria, and your process for reviewing them. To which I said, well, I really don't know yet. Like, we thought we would just come together and figure it out together. Well, no, first we need a review process, and then we need an intake process, and then we need a evaluation process, and then we need a way to control who is in this club and who is not. In the end, our potluck version was a budget of about $100,000 a year to have people come together, host some events, share some knowledge. We produced multiple reports and stories, but people volunteered to participate. And the foundation came back about a year later and said, we pay fill in the blank consulting firm $1 million for our report. How can you do this for $100,000? And my answer was, I don't have to control it. And so in some ways, it means that we're not in a dominant position. We're not out in front, shaping the narrative, controlling the messaging, ensuring that everybody's on point with our point of view, but that's expensive. And instead, we can work together as a community. We can shape each other's thinking. We can allow ideas to emerge. Now, again, there are times where control is important, where how people come together. I think about a UN event. I don't know how important all this protocol is actually, but we're not orchestrating protocols between multiple countries sitting at a table to negotiate peace. We're building a field. And so there are moments where all of that control is in place because the risks of it running out of control are too high. But what happens is those costs that we become so accustomed to, the cost of seating charts at events and protocols and review processes and approval processes and criteria and measurement, all of those things can have their place, but they increase costs. So ages ago, Criterion made a decision to reduce the cost of control. It enabled us to be a less expensive organization. Rather than raising enough money to control the field, we developed practices that put us not in the center, but put us as an actor. And that did, ironically, make it harder for us to raise money because we couldn't say, we're in control and this is what we're doing. But on the flip side, it reduced our costs, and so we needed to raise less money. So it's a balance. And it's a discipline, because once you actually want to minimize the costs of control, you have to be consistent. You can't sometimes shift and take on the practices of all of that. And so we have moments when we're partnering with people and they say, we need you to polish it all up and make it look shiny and have it be safer and manageable. Sometimes I want to say you need a different partner. You need to talk to Deloitte or McKinsey or somebody who does all of that, because we're not built to do that work. But the magic that comes from community, the magic that comes from working in radical collaboration, the outcomes that come from sharing in a cost-benefit analysis are worth the risk for me.
To learn more about our work, visit us at criterioninstitute.org. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Your reviews help our podcast reach a wider audience. Thanks for listening.